Hey, what's up guys, Aaron here. Welcome to the video. So in this video, I'm going to touch on two things. The first, there was a new report from the litigation administrator, the quarterly report that came out a few days ago. I'm going to go over that and also the latest with Ionic Digital. So starting out, let's talk about this litigation administrator's quarterly report. So I'll include the links to everything if you actually want to read it all yourself, but this is just going to be me picking out the things that I think are most important here. So they start out by saying they brought in around $92 million of cash over the last quarter, and now the balance of the litigation recovery account is around $248 million. And what most of you guys want to know is the next distribution. Now, this is not Ionic Digital. This is not the stock or equity. This is being paid from this $248 million account. So they're still looking to pay fourth quarter of this year. I would guess it's going to be first quarter next year, but they said fourth quarter of this year. So right here, this is where they have how much money we have. So the first thing, litigation proceeds, $98 million came back into this account. Most of this was from retail clawbacks, people like myself who decided to pay the settlement, and then that money goes into this account, which now has $98 million. So that'll be money coming back to all of us. Also, there's around $140 million that has come in through asset sales, which I'll get to a little bit later. And then interest income, this is probably just interest on holding cash at a bank, another $3.9 million. And that's where they get this $248 million account balance. So regarding retail clawbacks, they say there's around $103.5 million that's come back into this account. So next, talking about some litigation that the Litigation Oversight Committee is doing right now. So the first one against Power Blockchain, they're looking for $79 million and another one for $54 million from them. Next, we have claims against insiders, which a lot of you guys want to know about. The litigation administrator filed a complaint against certain former executives and their related parties, seeking the avoidance of nearly $90 million of preferential and fraudulent transfers, that would be like clawbacks, and billions in damages related to the defendant's breach of duties, deceptive and fraudulent business practices, and fraudulent misrepresentations. And this includes Alex Mashinsky, Daniel Leon, Nuke Goldstein, Harumi, Roni Cohen-Pavan, and several others here. And the litigation against Alex Mashinsky is being stayed. Basically, there's a hold on that until his criminal trial has concluded, which will happen early next year. They're also going after 5 former Celsius employees who sold significant amounts of Cell token to the company through its over-the-counter trading desk, otherwise known as OTC sales. So there's a couple of those. These are ongoing. Next, we have FTX. I made an entire video about this, I think a month or two ago, but they are wanting $400 million in avoidance action claims against the FTX debtors. And there's a lot of back and forth right now. Basically, Celsius wants to bring these avoidance actions against FTX, but there is a stay motion, which Celsius is trying to lift in order to actually get this money. All in all, the FTX court has not issued a decision on if Celsius is going to get their money. The litigation administrator filed an objection to the plan, to FTX's plan, but the plan was approved. So still kind of TBD on FTX. Next, there's some litigation against KeyFi. This has been going on for a very long time, basically starting August of 2022. June of this year, there was a settlement agreement between the two parties, but the litigation administrator is also filing or has filed 12 additional complaints against 72 parties. And it's still kind of going back and forth. The litigation administrator is currently preparing a response, so there isn't anything really conclusive yet with that. Next, we have Fabric Ventures. So Fabric agreed to pay $8 million in 3 installments for its Series B preferred shares, $2 million May of 2022, $2 million June of 2022, and $4 million in July of 2022. Fabric made the first payment of $2 million, but did not make the other 2 payments. So Celsius is going after the additional $6 million plus interest and fees that Fabric did not pay, and settlement discussions remain ongoing. So nothing really conclusive from that yet. Next, Badger DAO, Celsius says because of them, they lost approximately $50 million in Bitcoin, and they have filed motions to dismiss, which Celsius has yet to respond. Hopefully they will respond soon. Next, we have Bancor. Celsius says that they lost more than $7 million. The defendants are located outside the US, therefore the litigation administrator is currently effectuating service of process. Next, we have Into the Block, which lost $3 million of Celsius's money, and Into the Block filed a motion to dismiss, and Celsius's response to the motion is due on November 12th. So more litigations and claims. One against Mawson Infrastructure Group, Equities First. Celsius has a massive one against Tether, which is multi-billions of dollars. And with Tether, it's being pushed until February 2025, so not many updates with that. So they got some money from Rella's Group Technology Holdings, totaling $8.4 million. Next, we have Three Arrows Capital. A lot of back and forth with Three Arrows Capital. Celsius said they owe Celsius money, and the joint liquidators of the Three Arrow Capital estate objected to that claim, and ultimately communications remain ongoing, so there is nothing definitive from there. They are trying to get money from Terraform Labs, and right now they will continue to pursue recovery, so not many updates there. And this one with FTX. So FTX allowed a Celsius proof of claim for $12 million. Next, we have the monetization of illiquid and stranded assets. So illiquid crypto, they sold $4.2 million of crypto, and then they monetized an additional $6.1 million. Institutional loans, they've monetized approximately $33 million of those. Other securities, they've somehow collected $86.5 million. That's all coming back into the estate. So that is basically all the updates there. The only things that really matter, I guess, for most people is that they're still planning again on a Q4 of this year distribution. Now, my guess again is it'll be Q1 of next year, just because they haven't gotten to everybody for their first distribution yet. So my guess is maybe it'll be December of this year, but if I had to put money on it, it'll be January or February, but I hope I'm wrong. Okay, so Ionic Digital, let's get into it. They put out a few different press releases, and they have this big old FAQ section, which is new on their website. We have Mike Cagney on Twitter. He is the CEO of Figure Markets. So that is the company that we are, or a lot of you guys have basically pledged your shares in order to support a shareholder meeting. And then Ionic Digital yesterday came out with just a nice little Twitter thread. So I'm going to try to summarize this stuff, but I will include all the links for you guys if you want to read everything. So in this update from Ionic Digital, they want to remind people that their focus is on maximizing shareholder value, and this was the plan that was approved and that most people voted for. Well, I would push back on that. I don't think most people really wanted their money to go into another company, but here we are. They say that Ionic and its board are fiduciaries for stockholders, and they will consider any proposals like the one that Tony with Figure proposed to them about creating liquidity immediately, and that's what, by filling out this form, you can help support. So Tony is spearheading this as a creditor, and he said that he asked all of these questions to the board, and they really did not come back with any wonderful answers to these questions. This is a Twitter post done by Mike Cagney. So he says Ionic is going to have a lot of people who want to sell on day one, which is true. Unless someone lines up capital to buy those shares, the stock will tank. Members of the Ionic board believe that listing on NASDAQ solves this problem, but it won't. He says that no one will step in to buy these shares until the selling pressure is done, and at that point, the stock will be in a death spiral. Our plan, meaning Figure's plan, involves getting capital to buy stock through a Dutch auction before it starts trading. To get that capital and to support the share price, we need a new story. He says we don't believe the current board can credibly support that story, but with a different board and real management, we can get this done. So once the initial sales are complete, meaning the people that want to sell their shares on day one and get the heck out, we plan to list Ionic on the Figure Markets Alternative Trading System, otherwise known as the ATS, which is a marketplace for blockchain native securities. The board believes that the stock cannot trade on an ATS without a Form 10, extensive blue sky filings, etc., but Mike says this is not true. We propose to have the stock trading within 90 days with at least 2 market makers the ability to borrow against stock in US dollars or USDC, the ability to use the stock as collateral to buy Bitcoin, and the ability to convert sale proceeds to USDC. So Mike says the Ionic board continues to hide behind a false premise that the stock needs to be listed on a national securities exchange and has used that to prevent shareholder liquidity. They also have no plans on how they will secure capital to support shareholder liquidity and to provide a path for maximizing remaining shareholder value. And Figure Markets came out with an official document or press release on their website. So Figure talked to the board of Ionic Digital, and they came away with the impression that the board demonstrated minimal command of the fundamental operating metrics which any qualified director should have at their fingertips, and which knowledge would certainly be expected of a board paying itself approximately $450,000 per director per year of shareholder money. So Figure presented several options that seek to ensure listing and liquidity in a regulatory compliant marketplace. However, it was clear none of these options had been researched or given adequate consideration by the board. Despite repeated requests, Ionic Digital could not produce a single number with respect to its operating performance, making the group, meaning Figure, skeptical of the ability of Ionic and its new auditor to complete a proper audit by the end of Q1 2025, which is when Ionic says they want to have their audit complete. No one from Ionic was able to disclose a single expense number during the meeting, as they have been unable to do for the last 9 months, nor could they even provide a figure for the company's EBITDA. So ultimately, they believe that the board needs a refreshment, kicking some people out that they believe are not qualified and then filling them with more qualified people. And also, there needs to be a pathway to provide liquidity. So Figure believes the current members of the board are unqualified to act as fiduciaries and are unable to execute on its ideas given their long track record of inexperience and value destruction, but a reconstituted board acting in the best interests of shareholders could properly consider and evaluate all viable options for the company's future. So that is what they believe. Let's take a look here from Ionic Digital. Yesterday, they said, we are committed to informative and frequent communication with shareholders. They have been doing better. I mean, they have stepped it up over the last month or two. I'll give them that. And then they reference going to the FAQ, which I'll cover in just a moment. They say Ionic Digital is committed to facilitating liquidity for its shareholders and is in advanced stages on a plan to provide our shareholders with liquidity prior to its planned public listing on a national securities exchange. Ionic's intention to list on NASDAQ was described in detail and disseminated to the thousands of creditors that now hold Ionic stock. In tandem with its planned NASDAQ listing, Ionic Digital is prepared to consider actionable, committed alternatives to provide stockholders with liquidity. Ionic Digital is requesting input from Figure Technologies to understand its proposal to provide liquidity to shareholders and looks forward to further dialogue with all relevant parties. The company quickly began the development of its miner inventory and had 96,000 miners deployed by September 30th. By the end of 2024, we anticipate having a total of 395 megawatts of power deployed. We expect to include further financial performance, including cost and EBITDA, in our forthcoming Form S1, which we are working diligently towards finalizing as soon as possible, pending completion of our financial audit, which we are striving to complete at the beginning of 2025. So let's dive in really quick to some FAQs. They have a lot, which I'm happy that they are providing more transparency and disclosure. And in the FAQ, they kind of have the basic info about the stock, a little bit about the business operations, what they want to do, which again, a lot of it I've already covered. Where is Ionic doing business? What is their service agreement with Hut 8? How much Bitcoin has Ionic generated, which is a fair amount? How does Ionic intend to compete in the Bitcoin market? What is the average mining power of the fleet? What is Ionic's cost to mine a Bitcoin? A lot of people were like, what? So they say it's $24,000 per Bitcoin. And there are many people that are like, that is not possible to mine Bitcoin for $24,000 right now. So when does Ionic expect to complete its audit? First quarter of 2025, which is required to be listed on NASDAQ. So they give a little info about the board of directors, how the board was structured, the responsibility of the board. Is Ionic considering proposals from Figure? They do say yes, but they say that Figure's proposal lacks critical details about how they would ultimately achieve this liquidity and this marketplace, and a lot of the aspects of the proposals are inconsistent with the court-approved plan of reorganization. So there's that. So when will Ionic become a public company? They said they don't know, but again, they're looking for Q1 or Q2 of next year. When does Ionic plan to file an S1? They said they want to file an S1 with the SEC as soon as possible, pending completion of their audit, which we are striving to complete at the beginning of 2025. So that is all I really want to cover in this video. I'll include all the links to everything I talked about in the video description, including this form here if you have not already filled it out. Filling this out has no effect over your ownership of the shares or what you can trade them for or sell them for when there is liquidity and when there is a marketplace to do so. But all it does is it uses your shares as fuel to help propel a forced shareholder meeting. And I really believe that what we have done already has done quite a lot. It's probably made them put this FAQ together. They have been more communicative through Twitter, and they also have been putting out more documents like this, kind of sharing what's up. So the moves we are doing, I think, are very, very good. And again, if you want to support and if you want to push them further, I'll include the link to that below. So that's basically it, guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Till next time, talk with you soon, and bye for now.